Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance.
Pity? It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. My heart tells me that Gollum has some part to play yet, for good or ill, before this is over. The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of men.
Today we're really getting into one of Tolkien's most complex characters, Gollum. We're aiming to go way beyond just Gollum the villain. We want to unpack the surprising, almost paradoxical role he plays in, well, everything in Middle-earth. Get ready to maybe question what you think you know about good, evil, and the power of mercy.
That's exactly it. And our main source for this deep dive is a really insightful essay, Gollum, Pity's Grace in Middle-earth's Redemption. What's really great about it is that it sticks purely to Tolkien's own published works and his letters. So it's giving us a pretty clear view of his intentions. Our mission, really, is to see how Tolkien presents pity, not as, weakness, but as a kind of essential grace, and how Gollum himself somehow became absolutely necessary for defeating Sauron. It really does challenge our usual ideas about heroes and justice.
Absolutely. So the big question we're kicking off with, the one this whole discussion pivots on, was Frodo actually wrong to spare Gollum? Stick with us because the answer might genuinely surprise you. So let's rewind. Way back. Before the creature, there was a hobbit. Gollum started as Sméagol. He was a store-kind hobbit, which means he was related to the Shire folk, but more of a river-dweller type.
Right, akin to the ancestors of the Shire hobbits.
And his fall is just immediate. Finds the ring and bam, murders his friend Dagal for it. I mean, talk about 0 to 60. Finds ultimate power, kills his friend. It shows how fast that darkness can take hold.
It really does. It's incredibly stark. The ring's influence, it just twists him instantly. That murder, the essay calls it an original sin of sorts, a complete fall from grace right then and there. And Tolkien's whole view of evil, it's not some outside thing, it's more like a perversion of good, twisting what was okay, or even innocent, the essay puts it well. The ring had given him power according to his stature, it had lengthened his life, it had poisoned his heart. So you look at Gollum, and you have to see him as both the perpetrator, but also, undeniably, a victim of this immense power.
It's a heavy thought, isn't it? How one moment, one weakness, or maybe just greed can completely change someone. Makes you wonder about judging people so quickly, when you don't see the whole picture or the forces at play. And this whole idea of transformation and judgment. Well, that leads us straight to Gandalf and Frodo, doesn't it? That crucial conversation. Yeah, so early on, Frodo's talking to Gandalf, and he basically says, Bilbo should have just killed Gollum back in the Misty Mountains. Gotten rid of him. And Gandalf comes back with that amazing line. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out death in judgment. Even the very wise cannot see all ends. What's the core message there?
Well, Gandalf's response, it's steeped in what the essay identifies as a deeply Christian ethic. This idea that ultimate judgment, especially life and death, isn't really for mortals to decide. It belongs to, higher powers or providence.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our own limits. Tolkien himself, in one of his letters, letter 192, he wrote something like, the ring's power was stronger if used freely, but it couldn't dominate someone who stayed humble and faithful. So Gandalf's focus on pity, it's not just being nice, it's like deep spiritual insight.
Okay, so Gandalf sees Bilbo's pity as this incredibly powerful, maybe fated act, but wasn't it also incredibly risky? I mean, you could argue, right, if Bilbo had just dealt with Gollum then, maybe all that later trouble, the betrayal, maybe that could have been avoided. Was there a logical case against pity?
Oh, absolutely. From a purely practical, short-term view, yes, it was a huge risk. Gollum was dangerous. But Gandalf's wisdom, as the essay suggests, sees beyond the immediate danger. He tells Frodo, the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many yours not least. It's not about being illogical or sentimental. It's a kind of grace. The essay calls it not earned, not logical, but necessary. It acknowledges that life is messy, complex, and it keeps a door open for possibilities that logic alone might shut down, trusting in something bigger.
That really hits home. How often do we make snap judgments without seeing all ends, as Gandalf puts it? And what does it even mean to offer grace, especially when it feels unearned or even dangerous?
That's a tough one. So as the journey goes on, Frodo and Gollum, their relationship gets really intense and kind of morally gray, frankly. Frodo starts to see Gollum almost like a dark reflection, what he could become if the ring fully takes him.
Yeah, that's a key development.
He even says to Sam, I have to believe he can come back, that there is hope for him. It's like he's pleading for himself almost. It's a radical thought, but Tolkien basically says Middle-earth is safe because Frodo fails in the traditional sense. In letter 246, Tolkien is pretty explicit. Frodo didn't complete the mission as a standard hero would. He claimed the ring. He was dominated. What actually destroys the ring is Gollum grabbing it back in his lust and then falling into the cracks of doom. And that only happens because Frodo spared him earlier. That moment, Gollum, utterly wretched, lost, but driven by this lust, gets the ring and falls. That's Tolkien's eucatastrophe, that sudden, unexpected, joyous turn coming out of disaster.
Wow. Okay, so if Frodo's failure is the key to success, how does that change our definition of a hero? Are our usual ideas about strength and willpower just wrong, according to Tolkien? It completely flips the script on heroism. Now, let's bring in Sam. If Frodo is pity, Sam, good old practical Sam, he's often suspicion. He sees Gollum as basically irredeemable, a constant danger. And let's be honest, Gollum is treacherous. Sam's not wrong to be wary.
No, his caution is entirely justified. Gollum's track record isn't exactly stellar. But this leads to what the essay calls a tragic hinge moment. It's heartbreaking, really. There's a point where Gollum seems to be genuinely changing. Sméagol seems to be winning out. He even says to himself, Sméagol is free.
A real glimmer of hope.
Exactly. But then Sam, acting out of that understandable suspicion, accuses him of sneaking around. And Tolkien writes, a green light was flickering in his eyes. Sam had spoiled everything. It shows just how fragile that path to redemption can be. It's not about saying Sam was wrong, but about illustrating the difficulty, the precariousness of change, especially when trust is broken.
So Sam's caution, born from experience, might have accidentally shut that door on Gollum's potential change. That raises a tough question, doesn't it? How our own, maybe even justified mistrust can impact someone else's struggle. What's our responsibility there, if any? And underlying all of this, the constant pressure is the ring itself, the ultimate corrupter. It doesn't just tempt, it takes what's already inside someone, their flaws, desires, twists them, magnifies them into obsession. For Gollum, it's everything. My precious, my love, my own, my precious. It's not just an object, it's his whole world.
Right. In Tolkien, in letter 96, he's clear. Gollum is pitiable, but he is not innocent. He made choices. He wasn't just a puppet. But the ring undeniably eroded his free will massively. Still, the essay points out he retains these moments of agency, little flickers of choice. And crucially, Frodo also succumbs in the end. That shared failure, that's central to Tolkien's idea of mercy here. If even Frodo can fall, then nobody gets saved by sheer willpower alone. As the essay concludes, quite powerfully, it was not Frodo's strength, but his mercy that saved the world.
That's, yeah, a lot to think about. If even the strongest will can be broken by this external force, then where does real strength lie? Is it in the resisting or in something else? Like a choice made earlier, an act of mercy. It changes how you see winning.
And this leads us into one of Tolkien's most theologically fascinating ideas. How even evil can serve good. Gollum, in all his brokenness, his wretchedness, he becomes an unwitting instrument of divine will. Not redeems, not good, but his actions end up fulfilling a purpose he never intended.
It's like a mystery of grace, as the essay puts it. Tolkien touches on this in letter 181. He says Frodo was meant to have the ring, but not by Sauron. In this way, the fatal ring was indeed unmade. You can really see Tolkien's Catholic background there, that sense of providence working through events.
Exactly. Gollum destroying the ring isn't a heroic act on his part. It's part of this larger mystery of grace. He was, as the source says, doomed to be an agent of fate rather than a master of it.
So, thinking bigger picture, can we find a kind of purpose, maybe even grace, in things that seem purely chaotic or destructive? In our world, I mean.
It's a profound question. What does it suggest about how things work? If even a figure like Gollum plays such a pivotal, unintended role.
What's clear is Tolkien never lets Gollum be simple. He's not just one thing. He is, as the essay stresses, both sinner and sinned against. He did terrible things, but terrible things were also done to him, by the ring primarily.
And the story maintains this moral core. Think of Faramir refusing to deceive anyone, not even an orc. There's a standard of behavior, of integrity that runs through it, even towards enemies.
And the essay argues Gollum is evil, yes, but he's also, well, he's also us, or a potential version of us. He shows what happens when good gets twisted, when obsession takes over, and maybe when pity isn't offered. He's more than a character, he's a kind of moral parable.
And Tolkien himself, again in letter 246, wrote that Gollum had gone to the brink of repentance and then turned away, end quote. That possibility, however faint that he could have repented, that alone is enough to demand pity in Tolkien's view. He's this mirror to our own capacity for darkness, and maybe for a redemption we might tragically miss.
So when we see that complexity, even in someone depicted as villainous, how does that change how we think about morality, about justice in our own lives? Do we leave room for that possibility of change? Or do we just slam the door? Okay, let's circle back. The big question we started with, was Frodo wrong to spare Gollum? After everything we've discussed, based on Tolkien's own writings, the answer has to be a resounding, definitive no.
Absolutely. Frodo's pity, which echoed Bilbo's pity from years before, that was the crucial turning point, the hinge on which history turns, as the essay puts it. Without that act of mercy, the ring likely isn't destroyed. Any victory Sauron's defeat would have been incomplete, maybe impossible. That line just resonates, doesn't it? The pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. In our world, we often celebrate strength, power, decisive action, the big heroic moment. But Tolkien, through Gollum's story, seems to suggest something else. That maybe the most powerful act isn't always the sword stroke or the grand gesture, but sometimes it's simply a stayed hand, the quiet grace of choosing not to judge, not to condemn. What does that mean for the choices you make day to day? And how does it challenge what we assume it takes to maybe save the world?